fueled by greed in the Sinaloa cartel and the Phoenix man at the center of it all, who's now convicted in the brutal 2015 deaths. We now know this started from a failed attempt to take over a family drug business linked to the cartel. It ended with a burning car with bodies inside in a Southern California neighborhood.
Several victims were from Arizona. This murder conviction somewhat rare because of how complicated cartel cases are to investigate. True crime correspondent Brianna Whitney learning what goes into these types of investigations.
Turns out a lot, and there are so many crazy aspects of this case alone, and it is not over. It's an interesting case because the hitman is from Phoenix and multiple victims are from Arizona too. A former FBI special agent says often the Sinaloa cartel will use hitmen from Mexico so they can't be traced, and that aspect may be why the killer from Phoenix was caught, but other suspects have been on the run for 9 years. A car on fire and smoking in the middle of an unsuspecting Southern California neighborhood with 3 bodies inside. One tied up, another stabbed, all found shot 9 years ago.
And so I started shouting, and I called 911.
A week later, another body found in a car. 4 dead, and nearly a decade later, first-degree murder convictions. The wild details all tied to the cartel coming into focus for the first time.
The cartels are deliberately sending a very strong message not to cross the cartel and not to testify against the cartel.
Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Jim Eggleston looking at the case with us. 33-year-old Raul Flores from Phoenix, convicted in California for the 4 murders among other charges. 2 of the victims from Glendale and Phoenix, one of them just 19 years old. According to authorities, Flores was hired by the mastermind of the attack, a man who had been cut out of 2 brothers' drug dealing business, run by the Sinaloa cartel. Flores drove from Phoenix to California with AK-47s and handguns. Before the car fire, Flores and accomplices held up multiple people at gunpoint in an apartment in Orange, California before killing them. They then went to another apartment and stole safes, money, and more than $60,000 worth of heroin before forcing another victim into a car and killing him too, his body found days later. Eggleston says cartel investigations can be some of the most difficult.
It can often be very difficult to get records from Mexico, either because they're not maintained the same way we would do so here. It can be difficult to get cooperation from Mexican authorities because the cartels obviously exert a lot of influence and corruption.
Eggleston says it's surprising the cartel would use a hitman from the U.S.
That's what may have led to his conviction.
In this case, there were so many people involved, which could provide more witnesses to police, but that is a catch-22.
The intimidation factor, people don't want to come forward, people don't want to be identified. It's witnesses are rightfully afraid of retaliation in those cases.
The mastermind of the attack ended up being killed himself in Mexico. While Flores now awaits sentencing, officials say this isn't over. There are still 2 suspects wanted for murder in this case.
Are they U.S. citizens? If they went back to Mexico, were they rewarded for their role in this, or did the cartel punish them as well? So a lot of unknowns in this case. And
Raul Flores is set to be sentenced in late July and faces a maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. So much going on in this case.
Yeah, what about digital evidence?
Yeah, we see that in so many cases now, right? So there was something that was used. Flores took video of the last victim in this case, his dying moments, and stored it on the phone. That was something that was brought into play here. It's interesting, though, talking to the FBI agent, because he made mention of the fact that everybody is expendable when it comes to a cartel case, and that a case like this with multiple murders, I mean, we had 4 victims, you have a person convicted, and another mastermind in this case who was also found dead. So at least 5 people dead, and he said, just a drop in the bucket for the cartel.
I wonder if he did that to prove that his task had been accomplished, that he was actually dead.
He could have, right. But the irony here is then he proved that to the mastermind himself, who then was killed later on because of this case in Mexico. So where does that end?
Yeah.